Hello. In between my bigger videos, I think I'm going to try doing some off-the-cuff, little to no script videos where I just review some horror games that I find on Itch.io. And I'm going to call it Itchy Tasty, because the Resident Evil video took me 7 days to edit, so I'm just going to see if I can fit some smaller, easier to do stuff in the meantime in between videos. Like I said, completely off the cuff, I'm probably going to ramble a little bit, but let's go. The first game I played was called Ginkgo. It's a short little game based in Japan, I guess. It's like a horror game where you play a daughter going to her mother's funeral, but obviously progressively creepier and creepier shit happens. But it's got a interesting gameplay mechanic where you have like a thread that you use to thread shit together, I guess. You use it for pathways, walkways. There's one spot where you use it for a like a bridge where you have to like use it. You have to sew up the fabric to let the wind push it around so you can walk through the bridge. And you have to use it to unlock doors too, which I found kind of interesting. In fact, the first time that you unlock a door with this mechanic, I audibly was like, huh, cool, interesting. And that's usually, I think that's kind of like where it ends. The footage that I captured for it, unfortunately, just did not work. So I had to get the footage from someone online, who I will credit in the video. But for me personally, it kind of ran like shit. I have a really good computer. I can run the most graphically intensive game I played is that new Star Wars game that came out, and I can run it at like max settings, 60 FPS, like no issue. But for some reason, this game just ran like poopy butts. But you know, that's fine. The biggest thing for me was that the sewing mechanic was super finicky. Unfortunately, I lost the footage for it, but there was a part where you needed to cut something to let a passageway drop so you can like kind of like climb back up, and you have to cut this thing to let it fall down. But I swear that I sat in front of this thing clicking the cut button for 30 seconds before it finally managed to work. And stuff like that happens pretty often for me. Like I would try to sew together the carpet, the fabric, over and over again. Like it would like just, even though it was like pointing directly at where I needed to aim, it either shot like behind it, next to it, or just latched somewhere else entirely. That was not fun. There's a recurring monster that's chasing you through 2 points of the game, and it's okay. The first time you encounter it, it's pretty easy. You have to fall down like a path, and then it finds you again. And that one was a little bit more complicated because like while this thing is chasing you, you have to work this finicky sewing mechanic to cross a bridge, which wasn't very fun. But one of the biggest things for me was that the fact that there's no audible dialogue, so you're only reading like passages that pop up on the screen. And because there's no vocal inflections, you don't really get a lot of the full emotional intent that the game is trying to give you. So a lot of the times that like something will come up, it just doesn't hit. It seems kind of goofy because there's no voice behind it. I put a little montage together of all these times that they come up, and it's really awkward. It's interesting. I wouldn't really recommend it, to be honest. It was a little bit too finicky for me. If I had to give it a rating, I think I'd give it a 4 out of 10, to be honest. Yeah, that was Ginkgo. Alright, so the next game I played was Alisa, and I'm just going to be upfront when I say this, that I have played this before, and I've already backed the Kickstarter for it. So, spoiler alert. This game's fucking sick as hell. I've downloaded quite a few Resident Evil style clone games from the site before, but this is easily the best one. No other game even comes close to replicating the format as well. The pre-rendered backgrounds and fixed cameras look basically like they could have been ripped off a PS1 disc, which is pretty good. The atmosphere is solid. The voice acting is time appropriately cheesy, but it really adds to like this off-kilter kind of vibe to the whole thing. I actually really love the dollhouse setting. It's pretty unique, and it feels really creepy. I actually think the dolls are more unsettling than the zombies, which might be a hot opinion. But the trade-off for sure is that they don't feel quite as threatening, but they're definitely creepier. Because one of the things is that like the dolls have a set amount of like bullets that it takes to kill them. I even think the weird creepy bug enemies do, but like different variables obviously. And just knowing that sort of limits how threatening they feel, which, you know, isn't the worst. It's fine. It's just, you know, whenever you see one, you're like, oh, 4 or 5 shots, whatever it is, to take it down, like no big deal. If I'll just stand far back enough away and I don't even have to worry about it. The first time I played this, it took me an embarrassingly long amount of time to figure out the final puzzle. I did not really take into consideration where you put the last thing for the puzzle. But one of them, which is on the screen now, is the nightmare of my life, the slide puzzle. Whenever I run into any of these in a game, my progress is just halted. It doesn't matter how many times that I have played the game, I run into one of these and my progress just halts. I'm watching the footage right back now and it's just like, Jesus Christ, dude. But yeah, I obviously cannot wait for this game to come out. Like I said, I backed it on Kickstarter. I would recommend that you do that too. If you are looking for an old school style survival horror game, it doesn't really get much better than this. Yeah, that's Alisa. Give it a shot. I would highly recommend. I think I'd give it a just the demo. I'd have to take into consideration it's a demo, but I think even that being considered, I would give it a 8 out of 10. Feels right. Feels good. Feels good. Cool. The next game I played was Hamilton. This one was a big surprise. I'm not going to show too much of it because the game's super short, and I want you to experience this. But goddamn, the atmosphere on this one is on fucking point. The sound design is really good. It has that nice crunchy compressed aesthetic that I really like. And there's just in such a short amount of time, they throw a lot of really unsettling things at you. One of my favorites was the sign that you see right before you walk into the main part of the game. It's just got that looming dread that I really like, and seeing that sign really kind of made me think of bad dreams I would have when I was younger. But if for any reason you're unsure if this type of game this game is kind of up your alley, I'm just going to show you this one little clip for the atmosphere and let you decide for yourself. But yeah, I would highly recommend this one. I'd probably give this one a 7.5 out of 10. Just go play it. It's super short. It's free. Just do it. Alright, and moving on, because I guess I have to. The next game I played was Dementia. I feel like I must be cursed or something, because so far, every game I've played that I did not like, the footage did not capture correctly. So instead of game footage, I'm just putting screenshots here. This game was not good. I hate to say it. The premise is interesting because there are several instances where you walk through a room, it looks completely normal, and then something will happen where like the screen fades out and like cuts, and then comes back, and the room's just slightly different, which ties into the theme of dementia, which I think is pretty cool. It also has a cell phone flashlight mechanic where the cell phone kind of reveals the truth, I guess, so to say. There are instances with the phone where you can only see something specific through the phone lens, such as like a pathway or a key that you need to find. And I love stuff like that. But the whole time, there's no reason for you not to have it out. There's no reason for you never to have the phone down. So you're just constantly playing the game on a monitor through a smaller screen, and it's really weird. Around the halfway point of the game, you're going down this long hallway, and there's this thing that keeps popping up randomly, and you have to run into rooms and close the door to avoid getting killed, which is fine, but you open and close doors by the mouse button. But I have never in my life played a game with so poorly implemented hit boxes on doors, because when your life depends on closing a door, it's a 50-50 chance on whether or not the door actually closes, which leads to a lot of unnecessary deaths that aren't your fault. And then on top of that, it ends on a to be continued with zero mystery, really. There's no narrative, like, focal point when the game ends that leaves you being like, oh, I wonder what happens next. When the game finished, I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? But I mean, maybe that's the point. Maybe that's all ties into dementia. But all in all, I think I'm going to give this a 3 out of 10. It's just too frustrating and not good enough. Don't play it. Alright, and the last game that I played, I'm cheating a little bit. This one was not on Itch, it was on Steam. I saw the guys on Oni Plays play this one, and I stopped when I got interested in it because I didn't want to spoil anything, and my god, am I glad that I stopped watching when I did, because this was a mindfuck. It's based loosely on the movie The Lighthouse, which, side note, is a masterpiece. Go see The Lighthouse if you haven't seen it. You play a lighthouse keeper who is replacing somebody that went missing, and you go about normal days, just making sure the lighthouse turns on, but progressively crazier and crazier shit happens. And the movie tapped into a little bit of Lovecraftian kind of horror. The game taps into a little bit of that too, but the game is constantly just fucking with you. There are so many moments where I was just audibly going, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck? Especially near the end, things ramp up pretty fast, and I don't want to give really much of anything away. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not giving away too much in the video. I'm trying to use most of the stuff from the first day or two, and even then I'm trying to make sure that a lot of it isn't spoilery. I have a couple nitpicks. There are too many times, I think, about midway through and near the end, where you are tasked to do something, and it requires a lot of just kind of going forward when I don't think it really needed to. The latter half, especially, when something happens, you are in the lighthouse and you are tasked to do something that will affect the lighthouse itself. You have to keep going once you've accomplished your mission to do that. And stuff like that I feel like could have been taken out to kind of make it a little bit more cohesive. And there is a maze that you have to walk through at the end of the game. The second time you have to do it, I was very frustrated because I could not find my way out. And for a game that is pretty consistently paced, save for a couple hiccups here and there, that one was more than a hiccup. That was like a full belch of a interruption, and I wasn't too big on that. But overall, I genuinely don't think that you can do much better for a $5 horror game. It's psychological, it's suspenseful, it's creepy as fuck, and it gets under your skin. I would absolutely recommend The Lighthouse. Well, I would recommend The Lighthouse, but I would also highly recommend No One Lives Under the Lighthouse. Play with the lights off, wear a good pair of headphones, the sound design is excellent. Mwah. I give it an 8.5 out of 10, especially for the price. It's $5. It's really good.
Tomato is a fruit, but it's also a vegetable.